Positive people have negative thoughts. They just don't allow them to grow. It's okay to have a negative thought. That's being human. But nurturing that negative thought, feeding that negative thought, dwelling on that negative thought, that will turn you into a negative person.
Welcome back to the Today Counts Show with Jim Piper. Be sure to subscribe and follow the Today Counts Show on whatever platform you watch or listen. All right, let's get back to the podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Today Counts Show. This is Jim Piper. I think it's fair to say that most of us would like to achieve more. We'd like to get more done in our lives. We would like to enjoy life. We'd like to be happy people. We'd like to be joyous people. And we want to enjoy our relationships. We would like relationships that are free from stress, free from strife, if that's possible. We would sure love that. And I think we would all like to be more resilient, whether that is physically or mentally or spiritually, all of those things. And, one thing I've noticed about change in my own life is that if I want a better marriage, I cannot wait on my spouse. I'm not even sure I can make a deal with my spouse to make marriage better. I can't be a better father by expecting my kids to be better children. I cannot be a better grandfather without my kids. If I have the attitude that I can't be a better grandfather without my grandkids, being better grandkids, right? I mean, this is an existential way. I wish my job was better. I wish this was better. I wish that was better. What I'm trying to get to with all this mumbling is that I believe that all positive change starts with us, starts with you. If you want to achieve more, it starts with you. If you want to enjoy life, it starts with you. If you want to improve your relationships, it starts with you. If you want to become more resilient, it starts with you. And one thing I've learned also is that sometimes making these radical leaps, going from where I am to where I want to be, are not the most effective ways to go about transformation and change in my life. But it's more about thinking in the terms of habits. And so what I want to talk to you about today, if that proposition that I just shared to you is appealing, then stick with me, because I think it'll be worth it. It'll at least be a spark. It'll give you some directions to follow. When I practice these things, they work. When I don't practice these things, I don't receive the benefits of practicing them. So I want to talk to you about upgrading your habits, upgrading specifically 3 habits. Again, the proposition: wanting to achieve more, wanting to enjoy life and relationships more, wanting to become more resilient as an individual, dealing with stress or whatever, disappointment, all of those obstacles, all of those kinds of things. I believe we do that by upgrading habits. And I want to talk to you about 3 of them today, 3 habits. The first one is to upgrade your thoughts. Now, you've heard talks about positive thinking before. You've thought it yourself. You know when you're in a good mood, and you know when you're in a bad mood. But this really isn't about mood. It's about intentionally upgrading your thoughts. Let me share something with you that I think is a very positive thought. It's an encouraging thought, and I think it's a helpful thought. Here it is. Positive people have negative thoughts. Now stick a comma after the word thoughts. Positive people have negative thoughts. They just don't allow them to grow. So you see, we're not going to be talking about this sugarcoat it, just have a positive attitude, look for the good in everything. And all of those, those 2 statements are not horrible statements. But think about that. It's okay to have a negative thought. That's being human. But nurturing that negative thought, feeding that negative thought, dwelling on that negative thought, that will turn you into a negative person. So to upgrade your thoughts, realize that you will have negative thoughts. Just don't allow them to grow. When I was a little boy, maybe you can identify with this. Maybe you can relate to this. Maybe you can remember this. But I don't know, 8, 9 years old, it's kind of dangerous to give an 8 or 9-year-old a magnifying glass. And of course, in those days, we didn't play that much in the house. Most of our playtime was outside, especially if you lived in Southern California like I did. And but I remember the first time I learned what a magnifying glass could do outside in the sunlight. And it could, when you hold a magnifying glass up to a leaf and you hold it there nice and steady, you'll notice that it takes all the power and the rays of the sun and focuses it in on a certain target. And that target actually kind of explodes into a mini fire. It starts burning up. And the same is true with our thoughts. If we don't upgrade our thoughts, they will blow things up. To put it in the negative, if you focus on negative things, those negative things will magnify. They'll get bigger, and they have the potential to burn you up. They have the potential to cause a fire in other areas of your life, because you've got a fire in one room, it's going to spread to the rest of your house, so to speak, your emotional house, or your soul's house. But the other is also true. The more you focus on the positive, it magnifies. So just remember that what you focus on magnifies. So let me ask you this. What are you going to focus on today? What can you focus on today that would magnify, but it would have positive attributes, positive results, positive momentum, and that positive thoughts give birth to more positive thoughts, just as negative thoughts give birth to more negative thoughts. If I were to ask you this question, have you ever heard that you reap what you sow? If I could hear you in this conversation, I would imagine you nodding your head yes, or saying, well, of course, yes, I've heard that phrase, you reap what you sow. And you may even know that it is a biblical phrase. It's also been embedded in philosophy for centuries. And if I were to ask you, when you think of reaping and sowing, do you think of it as positive, or do you think of it as negative? I'd be willing to bet that the majority of us would say, well, I usually think of it as negative in a negative context. And I think that's sad, because really the reaping and sowing principle is an agricultural term, that when I plant corn, I'm going to get corn. The idea is get out there, plow, do the work, plant it, water it, be patient, and watch it grows. Good labor turns into something good. It is a general rule, a general principle. It's a spiritual principle as well. It's a relational principle as well. It's a work principle as well. But it's interesting to me how such a positive statement, you reap what you sow, can be captured and used in the negative. Captured and used in the negative. So remember that what you focus on magnifies. Let me share something else with you too. And these aren't necessarily, positive thoughts, but they're aha thoughts. They're thoughts that inform your way of thinking, and therefore can upgrade your thinking. Conflict is something that we have inside of us. We have internal conflict, and we have conflict with others, those that are close to us, and we have conflict with those that we work with. We have a lot of conflict. I want you to concentrate on this and think about this and see how true this really is. But I've been taught in the recent years by other leaders in conversation, and have come to embrace this, and I will call it a truth. I believe that in insecurity, and we all have them, is the root of all conflict. Insecurity is the root of all conflict. And it got me back into my theology, my biblical theology. And I think about the way that, the Bible tells us how Adam and Eve lived in fellowship with God, that God actually walked in the garden with God. And then when they sinned, they hid from God. Well, why did they hide from God? They went from being secure in the relationship to being insecure in the relationship. They felt threat. They felt fear. They were insecure. And so I'm sharing this with you because upgrading your thoughts looks like this. If you can cognitively and readily and immediately identify whenever you start sensing conflict, whenever you start thinking about it in that way and you start feeling threatened, you can ask yourself, gosh, I think I'm feeling insecure, or I'm insecure approaching this situation or approaching that situation. If you can identify and even talk about your insecurities, you might be surprised how it brings down walls of conflict in your life. And again, this is still under the topic of upgrading your thinking. What we're doing is we're having a big boy, a big girl conversation right now, just kind of thinking about the things that we can do to upgrade, if you will, our thinking. And if we upgrade our thinking, just like the reaping and sowing principles, we're going to see here just in a few minutes how it impacts other things, other habits that we can upgrade. The first being upgrade our thinking. So one of the most powerful concepts, I want to read to you something that Norman Vincent Peale, in his book, The Power of Positive Thinking, that book was loved and hated. Hated might be a strong word, but that word was loved, and it wasn't always revered by theologians because Dr. Peale really stretched out this idea of positive thinking. But there's a particular paragraph in his writing that I want you to listen to because I think it's powerful. It says, one of the most powerful concepts, one which is a sure cure for lack of confidence, which isn't insecurity all by itself, but it's certainly cousin or brother or sister to concepts, to insecurity. It says one of the most powerful concepts, one which is a sure cure for lack of confidence, is the thought that God is actually with you and helping you. Think about that for a minute. This is what Dr. Peale taught. He said, this is one of the simplest teachings in religion, namely that Almighty God will be your champion, will stand by you, help you, and see you through. No other idea is so powerful in developing self-confidence as this simple belief when practiced. To practice it, simply affirm this, and I quote, God is with me, God is helping me, God is guiding me. I want to say that again. What if you said this every day? What if you prayed this every day? I think this would upgrade your thinking, that God is with me, that God is helping me, that God is guiding me. Now, what would make that untrue? The only thing that would make that untrue is if you decided to be unaware of it and to ignore it and to resist it. But what if you became cognitive of it, open to it, looking for it, that God is with you, God is helping you, and God is guiding you? I think that would upgrade your thinking. My mom and I, at the time that I'm recording this podcast, I am visiting my mom and dad. They're both in their 80s. I enjoy my time with them immensely. And my mom and I were talking about some hard things in life this morning, just in general. And, if you're not yet to my place in life, I've been blessed with a constantly growing family. But with blessings comes a lot of challenges, a lot of obstacles, a lot of things, I'll just say it, to worry about. And we love our family. And when your family goes from, 1 to 2 to 3 to 30 to 50, when it continues to grow in these kinds of numbers, you can imagine that the challenges grow as well has the joys and the wins and the blessings and all of those kinds of things. But in regard to this quote from Norman Vincent Peale, at the end of the conversation, my mom says, well, in the end, we simply have to trust God. We have to trust that he's a good God and that he will do what is right. And in the end, he will make all things right. And I think that deserves a place in this first habit to upgrade your thinking. All right. So just take some of the things that I've shared with you right now about upgrading your thinking. And let me ask you this. Don't you think that if you did upgrade your thinking in this way, you didn't just listen to this podcast and move on with life, but you actually listened to it again, and maybe you pulled out your journal when you're not driving or running, and you're writing down some of the things that I said to you, because they're not from me. They're from wisdom, right? And when you look into Scripture, wisdom is what God breathes out, and it's a gift to us. So it behooves you to, man, I don't know how some folks make it without journaling. That's my own little deal. I guess it's not for everybody, but I would encourage you to write some of the things down that we have just talked about. Well, anyway, let's transition. If I work on upgrading my thinking, what's going to happen is going to upgrade my talk. But I do need to be intentional about upgrading my talk. So upgrade your thinking will then lead you to upgrading your talk. Let me share some things with you about upgrading your talk. Don't just think positive thoughts, say them. Say them out loud. There's something supernatural that happens when you go from thinking a positive thought to actually saying the positive thought, not just towards others, but also, towards yourself. And if you go back to what we just talked about with Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, the power of positive thinking, that's what he's telling you to do, isn't he? He's saying you can affirm this if you say this: God is with me, God is helping me, God is guiding me. And you can write that down. I think that's powerful. And you can think it. I think that is powerful. But what if you said it? What if you said it over and over again? God, as I'm driving down the road here, getting ready for work or ready to handle this difficulty or that situation or deal with this obstacle, I believe that you are with me. I believe that you are helping me. I believe that you are guiding me. I mean, try it, see what would happen. So the first thing that I would say about upgrading your talk is don't just think good things and right things, say them. Say them. And don't just say them to yourself, but also say them to others. I'll get into that in a minute. Newberg and Salmon wrote this. In their studies, they concluded that positive words strengthen areas in the brain that promote cognitive functioning and stimulate the motivational centers of the brain. Let me read that again, because it's obviously written in a sentence structure and a vocabulary that we have to pay attention to. Positive words received, positive words expressed, positive words, they strengthen us. How do they do that? They strengthen us by strengthening the areas in an organ that we have called the brain. Now, I don't believe that the mind and the brain are the same things. I believe that the mind is the immaterial human being made up of the emotions, the intellect, and the will. But the brain is an organ that is connected in a supernatural, miraculous way by the creator of the universe. So let's think about this again. Positive words, they strengthen us. They strengthen us because they strengthen areas in our brain, and that radiates, it promotes cognitive functioning that, in my opinion, goes beyond the brain into the mind of the human being, functioning and stimulating motivational centers, releasing endorphins and other such things that make us think better, stronger, higher, purer, more wonderful. And this is from research. So I think it's worthy to think about these three habits that I'm going to be talking about here. Upgrade our thinking, upgrade our talk. So let me ask you a question. When is the last time you noticed good work? Now, if you're like me, I'm a bit of a butthead when it comes to being a consumer. I'm just going to lay that out there right now. I try to look for the good. I try to expect the good, but maybe I'm wrong, but I would say that poor customer service, and I've been harping on this for a while on our podcast. I'm harping on this so much that I believe that if you do good work, whatever your work is, you're not going to have any competition sooner or later, and you're going to be so darn successful. It's going to challenge you in new ways to become successful. I believe that with all of my heart, so to speak. But anyway, with that said, when is the last time you were shocked and you noticed good work, whether it be from somebody, cleaning a restroom or serving at a restaurant or actually returning your phone call, for goodness sake, or your email, or whatever it might be. When is the last time you noticed good work and acknowledged it? Let me ask you this. What if you made it your goal to notice and acknowledge every possible behavior from others that you encounter over a 24-hour period? What if you made that your goal to go out of your way and make sure that that person that you caught do a stupendous job on something, or maybe it was just a simple thing. Maybe it was just so simple, like somebody opening the door and holding the door, somebody giving you their place in line, something that's just kind of like common courtesy. But what if you really made it clear that it was appreciated? And not only do I think that's a good thing to do, try it for one day and see if it has an impact on your attitude. See if it upgrades your thinking and see if it upgrades your talking. All right. So what if upgrading your thinking does upgrade your talking? And I do think it will. Then I think it'll do and encourage you to develop the third habit. So the first habit, upgrade your thinking. We talked about how. Second, upgrade your talk. We talked about how, and now I want to talk about upgrade your walk. Upgrade your thinking, upgrade your talk, and now upgrade your walk. All right. So when I think about upgrading your walk, I'm thinking about taking positive thoughts and positive words and seeing where that equation leads. And I believe, because it's worked in my life, that it leads to positive actions. What is better than positive actions? So you don't just, you don't keep thoughts to yourself. You think negative thoughts, but you wash them, right? You wash them with goodness. You wash them with positivity. You wash them with faith. You wash them with hope. And then if you exercise that habit, it's going to stimulate the next habit of upgrading your talk. And your talk's going to get cleaned up. You're going to see less and less negativity. And as you clean up your talk, it's going to it's going to happen. It's going to introduce a third habit where you are now upgrading your walk. You're actually doing better. You're actually performing better. You're behaving better. Your thoughts and your positive words are leading to positive actions, and people begin to notice. Positive actions, and here's the thing, positive actions change the course of a person's life, but you can't get to positive actions if you don't upgrade your thinking and upgrade your talk. You got to upgrade your thinking, upgrade your talk, and it's going to upgrade your walk, and that's going to change the course, the direction of your life. So, not only do I challenge you to say nice things to people when they do things well, but what if you became one of those people that did nice things? You went the extra mile and you did something nice for somebody. And to me, what that means is, yes, I'm not just talking about the easy things, but what if What if you actually asked yourself and you looked at your calendar and you said, how can I go out of my way? How could something, how could I help someone even though it's inconvenient for me or it's a sacrifice for me? And this is going to sound like an old sermon here, but I'm beginning to see less and less in that. I'll give you a ride from point A to point B as long as it's on the way to where I'm going. To me, that's a common courtesy. And we do need more of that in our lives. But what if we became more aware of the needs around us, not just in our family, not just in our neighborhoods, not just in our workplaces, but have a head on a swivel where we seem to notice human needs around us more and more? And what if we went out of our way to bring goodness to other people? Now, when you put those three habits together, upgrade my thinking, upgrade my talk, upgrade my walk, and then I think what's going to happen is you're going to realize that you are starting to change your world by starting with you. Start with you. Start with you. I want to give you two more principles that I think might help you into putting a little more muscle into this. And I hope that you will write this down. I hope that you'll memorize it. I heard this first statement from one of my guests, Clint Pease, and you can go back and listen to that in our podcast. But this one for me was a showstopper because it's so darn simple. So isn't that? It's so darn true and so darn powerful. Isn't that often true that some of the most powerful things in this life are those that are just simple and true? And they often come out of a baby's mouth, sometimes. But here it is. What you ignore becomes more. And what you address becomes less. What you ignore becomes more, but what you address becomes less. I want you to think about that. And let me give you one more principle, a principle of productivity. If you're a busy executive, if you're a busy leader, if you're a busy anybody, and you want to move to the next level of productivity, let me suggest this. When you start your day, when you start your week, when you start planning your month, what if you applied this, said, in spite of all the things that I've got to get done today, or in spite of all the interruptions I know that I might have today, or in spite of not feeling the best today, that I've identified the one thing that needs to get done today, the one thing that will move the project forward, that will move the goal forward, that will move my desires ahead. What's the one thing I must get done today? This is how effective leaders think. What's the one thing that must get done today? Every day, you ask that question. What's the most significant thing that I could do today that contributes to the thing that I want to get done this week or this month or this quarter or this year? And what you're doing by that is you're aligning your larger goals, your most important things, your vision. You're aligning that to monthly ideas, weekly ideas, and daily ideas. So, to me, when you upgrade your habits and you don't consider these last two principles, you're going to be missing a little bit of the muscle that kind of moves things forward. I hope this was helpful for you today. I would love to get any feedback or any questions from you. You can do that by emailing me at jim@leadtodaycommunity.com. If this was helpful to you, it's just a short, in fact, it's less than 30 minutes, just a short coaching session. I would encourage you to share it with other people. Spread the words. That's how you could say, thank you, Jim, is simply by telling others about the Today Counts show. Thank you. God bless you. Have a great day, a great week.